Hi, and welcome to the online course titled UnMukt, The Science and Art of Design Thinking. The course is brought to you by the School of Design Thinking. This session titled Learning deals with how the human mind gathers and assimilates knowledge. The session is about 10 minutes long. Have a pencil and workbook handy, and open your mind to learn and grow. Now, over to Arun Jain.
What is the learning process? The next question comes to mind is, once you define a learning, then what is the learning process? That's a natural process of our management process. First you define what, then you define how. How is learning process? For this I was searching in 2008, what is the learning process? I only find Jain scriptures where I could find the learning process. Lot of time, Western world has given learning outcome, left brain and right brain, has been very well articulated by Western learning theories. That what is learned in a left brain, what is learned in a right brain. But how the learning process happen, I couldn't find many articles on how part of it. What part is known, but not how part of it. So in learning process, there are 4 elements which creates a knowledge network. We have a repository of inferences, logic, recognition and memory. Memory, we have the data, then we recognize the pattern. Certain patterns we recognize when you listen to the music, you recognize the pattern of the music listening. Just by the small bit of the music, you immediately recognize the full song. Then you have a logics on the basis of which we can take a decision. And you have a data of inferences that with this logic, this inference, this logic, this inference, you have database of that. All the 4 elements constitute a network which is fully wired. Multiple decision points are there, so we don't know how complex this network is. This is a billions of neurons get connected to create this network which is having 4 dimensions of it: memory, recognition, logic and inference. Now when you are learning, it means this network has to change. This network has to, a new inference has to come in, new observation pattern has to come in. So it means for any learning process to happen, this network has to displace. So displacement of this network has to happen. Then only learning will happen. When you're childhood, this network is fresh. You keep creating this network. When you are becoming adult, your network is already set it up. Then anything which is changes, like when you take a new house, anything you can keep it, any bed, any table, you keep it in a new house, wherever it is there. But now after the house is full there, all the beds are set, all the rooms are set. Now you like another bed in one shop, you don't know where to place. Now when you get a new learning packets, you don't know where to place. So you may get a new learning package, but if you have to displace the current structure, that's the word which you use, unlearn. Unlearn means you need to break down those knowledge network. And that process happens. Why you want to change this knowledge packet? Either you have intention, or you observe something, or you experience something. There are only 3 sources of input which can come in learning process, which will trigger the learning process. And where it will go? It will go to perception. Either all the sensory organs, it will go to the sensory organ, whether intention, experiential or observation, it will go to the perception route. Perception, then we conceptualize. If we have 10 observations, only 2 observations I will conceptualize. Then I make a judgment call on it, whether this is relevant for me or not relevant for me. And then I will go to the retention. So any input which comes to me, it has to go to the 3 filters, from perception to conception to judgment, then come to retention stage. And when it comes to retention stage, then also it needs to display something in a knowledge network to become a part of the knowledge network. So learning process, adult learning process is such a complex process. So I go to the definitions. In definition, I define the knowledge unit of knowledge. I call it knowledge packet. So the smallest unit which is there for knowledge is knowledge packet. When you have multiple knowledge packets in one area of work, it becomes knowledge cluster. Like in school, when you start the education, you start language and problem solving as the 2 subjects. English and maths are the 2 subjects. One is about language capability, second is around problem solving. So maths I don't see as math as subject, maths is a problem solving as a tool. That's how I look at the math. And third is social sciences. So there are 3 subjects. Then when you move, you start clustering the knowledge packets into a social sciences into 3 knowledge packets, one related to geography, one related to civics, one related to psychology or any other definition, history. So that's become science, become physics, chemistry, biology. Then you go further up, you say physics is a heat, motion, mechanics, various subjects, chemistry become organic, inorganic, physical. Then you go further up, so you become a knowledge clusters. So when I'm in software industry, you start looking coding, you start looking project management, you start looking business, you start looking marketing. That becomes MBA subjects. So these are the knowledge clusters. When I'm in this zone of knowledge packet, knowledge zone, I define another, I bring another vocabulary called comfort zone. This is comfort zone, I bring a new vocabulary called comfort zone here. So comfort zone, that when I'm in this knowledge cluster, I'm very, if I'm a doctor doing a practice, MBBS practice is in comfort zone there. So a project manager who is doing a software project, he's in a comfort zone because he knows what goes in the project management. Then I say there could be multiple knowledge clusters in an organization. In any organization, there will be multiple knowledge clusters. That's why we call functional role. Role holders are, in any company, is called owner of the knowledge cluster. A consultant has a certain knowledge cluster. A marketing guy has certain knowledge clusters. A product manager has a certain knowledge cluster. A admin has a certain knowledge cluster. Human capital is knowledge cluster. I define the 6 kind of a knowledge clusters your organization can be aligned to. One is your customer knowledge cluster. Second is around human capital. Third is around product. Fourth is around execution. Fifth is around brand. Sixth is around finance capital. So 6 clusters are typically there. You can subdivide the clusters, but these are 6 major blocks of cluster: finance, human, brand, which is marketing and sales, execution, which is delivery, product, customer. So these are 6 capitals which is there. And these are knowledge cluster which is there. When people move from one knowledge cluster to other knowledge cluster, when they do a job rotation, this comes into play there. This knowledge cluster can be well-organized knowledge cluster or cluttered knowledge cluster. So clutter means some people have extreme knowledge. They are extreme PhDs, but they are not effective in a workplace. So I call them as cluttered. Knowledge is there, but it's cluttered. It's called a cluttered knowledge cluster in my definition. Somebody is an extreme PhD guy who knows everything in the world, but output is never received. He will have enough questions, enough mind, enough curiosity, but output is not there because that got cluttered because the mapping is not proper. If you take a next definition, if you organize those knowledge packet in a structured fashion, that forms a organized knowledge cluster. It helps the knowledge to retrieve better and faster because it's all organized. All the dots are connected nicely, well laid out. It's like a library where all the books are laid out. You want to pick up a particular book, you can go to that shelf, librarian will tell you, you will pick it up. Your mind will pick up the right information at the right time. That's the organized knowledge cluster. This leads to your better retrieval in your mind. Human mind can retrieve the information faster if the knowledge cluster which I am doing is well organized. The similar diagram I am using for skill. So when you are saying a person is a good programmer, the skill is there. So skill is nothing but organized knowledge cluster.